I want you to think for 20 seconds, what was your most engaging learning experience? I know that wasn't very long. I'll give you 20 more seconds. As I think back on my most engaging learning experience, this is what comes to mind. The year is 2008. Oklahoma Shakespeare in the Park decides they're going to put on Julius Caesar. Well, I'm teaching Julius Caesar as a 10th grade English teacher. I decided to try out. I had never performed in this manner before, but I received the part of Mark Antony. And the learning curve was straight up for me. I had to learn. Otherwise, the entire city would know it. So here's the question. How do we create a classroom environment in which this kind of learning is the norm, not just the exception? How do we create the kind of classroom where every student gets it, not one student, but every student? Well, a few years ago, I collaborated with another teacher to team teach the novel The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Now, this novel is powerful for me because of the deep themes about the human condition that I find within its words. And we began brainstorming, okay, how do we really convey the essence of this novel to our students? Now, one of the A+ Essentials is curriculum, and they encourage backward design. So we decided to begin planning. We use this template to do it. And we decided to focus on the power of words and their importance. We decided to give the students the opportunity to experience the words of The Alchemist, not just learn them. So we decided the final project would have to be something about them becoming Paulo Coelho. They would have to answer interview questions as if they were him. So how do we get 15 and 16-year-old kids to become Paulo Coelho? Well, this is how we decided to do it. We decided to take our students on a trip to Morocco. Not physically, because passports and money would not allow us to do that. We decided to bring Morocco to them. I had two friends, Braden and Gary, who spent 2 years in Morocco and had just returned to the States. So we decided to invite them into our class to give our kids a new cultural experience. And this is what went through my mind. I decided what would happen if when students walk into the class, they're confronted with the spices of Tangiers. What would happen if they come in and the girls have to put on a uniform while the guys feel a little bit more privileged? What would happen if when they come in, all the guys greet the guys with a kiss on both cheeks and the girls do the same? If the entire conversation were in Arabic, if they had to experience the frustration of entering a new culture? Well, that's what happened. The students learned about dating in Morocco, about how the groom his father has to give a dowry to the girl's parents in order to ask for her hand in marriage. Well, one of my students, Michael, who is definitely a naturalist learner, he thrives out in the woods. This experience was extremely powerful for him. And it also connected with my kinesthetic and my auditory and my visual learners. That's multiple intelligences. That's the A+ Essentials in action. When students have to learn that when you experience a new culture, when you come into a new culture, this is what it takes. Now this novel, this Paulo Coelho's words become real to my students. And they had the opportunity to see this book not only through their own eyes, but through the eyes of the main character, Santiago. Now, this kind of experience, this experiential learning that A+ talks about, is not only prevalent within an English classroom, although an English classroom is definitely a place where it can happen. In fact, our 12th grade English teacher decided to create the world of Macbeth in a similar fashion. Instead of just reading Shakespeare's words and progressing from Act 1 through Act 5, she decided to take her students to Scotland, where they had the opportunity to become Lady Macbeth and to become Macduff. Now, this kind of engagement gives students the understanding that they were born with, that learning can be fun, that the experience of learning is something that they want and they desire for the rest of their lives. And we see this kind of thing happening in all of our classrooms. In fact, this class is a chemistry and society class, and the enriched assessment they were using was, instead of just studying plastics, they decided to make their own bookmarks. Instead of just studying concrete, they had to make concrete boats. They had to float across a river. In the geometry class, they didn't just take a paper and pencil test about polygons, but they had to use marshmallows and toothpicks to create their own tetrahedrons. This is the arts and the A+ Essentials coming to life in a secondary classroom. Now, I teach theater as well, which you'd say, well, the arts are essential there. Absolutely. But you also have the opportunity to explore another A+ Essential, which is climate. How do you give students ownership within your classroom? Well, we decided we wanted to perform Shakespeare's play Othello in our theater class. And rather than taking them to Africa or to Italy, we decided to put it in their own context. So I put it back on the kids. So how would you convey the story of Othello? And they came up with the idea that Othello would be an illegal immigrant, and Desdemona would be his bride who happened to be a citizen. This play came alive for my students because it was in their context, around them. It was focused on them, giving them the experience of learning this play. When you put the A+ Essentials into action in your classroom, every student succeeds, not just one.